Top of the morning, planet Earth, and to all the listeners out there, a hearty and I do mean healthy hello. In case you're wondering, you're listening to the Celtic Coach radio show, where science, spirituality, and self-discovery meet, they dance, they twain. Never the twain will meet. I don't think so. They met on the show. If you're a man wanting to get the most out of your life, and then this is a good show to listen into. If you're a lady that just wants to get a little more out of what you're already doing, being, having, seeing, experiencing, living, and putting on at night, I don't know, then listen into the show. And thank you. We got quite a few people we got people from Egypt listening in today. Yes, Baha, if you're out there, hello to you, my friend, an avid listener of the show, and appreciate all the feedback from Egypt. I know it's. I tell you what, technology is just wonderful. It's just wonderful. It's you know, it's like art. It's the gift that just keeps on giving. All right, enough of that and more of this. You're listening to the show on KOWS.FM, F for Frank and M for Matilda. Special effects are included, yes, at no extra price, 0.999% cent of whatever that might be. And if you want to find more about the show, you want to find more about life coaching, professional life coaching, you can go to thecelticcoach.com, C-E-L-T-I-C, thecelticcoach.com. That's my website. You can also pick up your free copy of the show by putting your name in the email list there. And I send out a copy of the show every week, along with information on the show for the following week. So jump on that. It's a really nice thing that and I put it all on the website. It looks very nice, and you can download it on iTunes or SoundCloud or one of those things. All right, our show today. I'm quite excited about the show today, I have to say. The Irish do it differently. Now, of course, the question is, what the hell do the Irish do differently? What do you mean, Dermot? Well, we're going to be talking about different aspects of the Irish culture, right? Namely, I'm that of. And we're going to be talking about what is it the Irish do well, what is it they don't do so well. We're going to be talking about a favorite quote, a thing that my father said to me for years and years and years, and I never understood them. Now, God bless my father and the cabbages that he rode in on. He wasn't, he wouldn't be considered now a James Joyce of poetry or philosophy. Let's just say that. However, he had a lot of endearing qualities, and I love you, Pops, and I miss you a lot, too. But one of the things he would say when our family would get worried about stuff, or I would come to him with a problem, he would always say to me, me arse and cabbages. Me arse, meaning, you know, my butt, my behind, excuse the French on the show, and cabbages are those green leafy things that growing up my mother used to boil the heck out of and then put it on a plate. It looked like a shamrock that imploded on itself, and then somebody picked up both pieces and put it back on a plate. And that was considered cabbage. Green leafy stuff. I never liked cabbage. Still do not like cabbage to this day. And no fault of my mother, God bless her. But just one of those things with cabbage. And we all have those things. So me arse, and cabbages. Now, it doesn't mean anything. But to my father, it was the answer to any problem you wanted to solve in your life. Now, it took me a lot of years to figure out what the heck that is, so we're going to be talking about that today. We're also going to be talking about the Irish. The Irish are great at just putting the feet up. Just putting the feet up, having a cup of tea, just letting the socks down, putting the feet up, and just enjoying life. We're going to be talking about that today. How can we enjoy life just a little bit more? And we're also going to be talking about today a quote. Yes, a quote from my dear Ma. My dear Ma, she used to say to me, you alone can do it, Dermot, but you can't do it alone. And I used to think to myself, well, gosh, Mom, that sounds great, but what do you mean? And my mom used to say, look, Dermot, you've got one life, and when you were in your mother's womb, you didn't worry about getting stuff done. You didn't worry about your goals. You didn't worry about planning. Like, you didn't sit there all day going, well, Jesus, no, I can't wait to get out of here because I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to get a job, a career. I'm going to spend half my life thinking about what I want to do. And then I'll spend the other half trying to do it. But in the meantime, I'm going to set lots of goals, lots of intentions. I'm going to be doing affirmations till they're coming out me eardrops. I'm going to be working for a bunch of people that I don't particularly like, but at some point I'll find someone I do like. And I'm going to be stressed out about everything possibly on the planet. And I'm going to do it all myself. Right? We when we're in the room, we don't seem to come in with that plan. But at some point, my mother said we tell God that I got it from here. I'm going to take it from here, God. And God inevitably thinks or says, okay, Dermot, you can take it from here, but you might not enjoy the ride. I wish God had said that to me, like told me that ahead of time. It would have been very helpful. So, what is in our control of life? What's the practical side of spirituality? What's the practical side of life? And what's not in our control? What is the spiritual side of life? What's the side of life that we cannot control? What's the side of life, or our part in life, that we have no influence over? Now, as a professional life coach, I do a lot of life coaching, and I'm also a trainer of life coaches, and I'm honored to be a trainer of life coaches. And hello to all the coaches listening out there from all over the planet. And one of the things that I ask my clients a lot, because they're always trying to change somebody or something. Right, they're in a job that they don't like, and they're trying to change the boss. The boss doesn't treat them a certain way, doesn't appreciate them a certain way, doesn't give them enough money, whatever it might be, and they want to change that. So I have a conversation with them usually about what's in your control, person, place, or thing, and what's not in your control, person, place, or thing. Now, when we can get a clear picture, not even a clear picture, get a fuzzy picture of what's in our control and what's not, you know what happens? It kind of goes, we kind of relax, because we spend so much of our lives, myself included, who said that? Trying to manage, fix, and control things that are not in our control. Now, making a good cup of tea, I can pour the water in. I can dip the tea bag in the water. I can even put a little bit of honey in there, although I'm tasting my tea today and there's no honey in it. So I'd just like to ask the little lady, you forgot the honey. Honey. I can do all those things. Okay, my little lady, that's my cute name for her. Some people say, oh, she's not little. I'm like, well, no, she's not little. She's pretty grand. But that's the cute name for her. So no disrespect to any of the ladies out there. And I can make this cup of tea, but how it's ultimately going to taste is out of my control. In the same way that I can make a chicken sandwich, and I can put the lettuce on, the tomato, the potato, the mayonnaise. I don't like mayonnaise, so I wouldn't put mayonnaise on it. The Thousand Island dressing. And I can put the butter on the bread and toast the bread. And I can do all of those things. But ultimately, how the sandwich is going to taste is more up to the chicken than it is to me. Right? Yes, bless the chickens out there. So in the same way that what we can control in life, when we're clear about what we control, can really, really make a measurable difference in our life. It can impact our lives in many, many ways. What's in our control? What's out of our control? We're going to also be talking about problem solving. All right, so welcome to the show, everyone. We got a great show for you. Let's play a few seconds of happy-go-lucky Irish music, and we'll be right back to jump into our show. So stay tuned. We're going to get a great show for you. All right, here's some happy Irish music, and you can dance to this music. Don't be afraid. Thank Crunchy. It's Friday. Time to let the hair down, if you have hair. Welcome, ladies. You're listening to the Celtic Coach radio show, where science, spirituality, and self-discovery hug, kiss, make up, and just generally hang out for about 1 hour every Friday from 2 hours from 1 to 3. We play music for 30 minutes at the start of the show, 30 minutes at the end, Irish, Celtic music, and some 80s. Love the 80s. And in between, from 1:30 to 2:30, we have our show. Now, there will be a test on exactly what I just said in 10 minutes from now. All right, Seamus will be here. The Irish leprechaun will be here on the show today. He's not here yet. He's supposed to be here at 1 o'clock, by the way. But and if you're driving over here, Seamus, in your leprechaun mobile, put the foot on the gas. We're going to have you here in about 20 minutes. Do the top 11 things you absolutely do not need to know about stress. All right, or tress with an S. Tress. All right, not to be confused with dress. My father used to say to me, Dermot, when I came to him with a problem, he would say to me, Dermot, me arse and cabbages. And that was about all he said. And for years I wondered, what the heck are you talking about, Dad? You're making no sense, Papa. And what I figured out. Now I say figured out. I more so I just made up, because apparently the whole universe is made up. Apparently we're in a simulated universe. We're going to talk about that in a moment. That kind of takes the pressure off. What he was saying was, Dermot, don't take your life so seriously. There's a lot going on in the world, Dermot, that is not about you. Because growing up, I thought everything, I don't know where I got this, but I thought everything was about me. And nothing was not about me. You ever had that as you're growing up? Have you had it now? Yeah. He said, don't take it all so seriously. Now, I think if my dad might have known about Nick Bostrom. So here's a little bit of science for you around spirituality. Since we are science and spirituality, I thought I'd better start bringing some science into the show. Nick Bostrom, I believe in 2002, came up with this hypothesis. It's called the simulation hypothesis. I know, that's hypothesis. Hypothesis. And the question he posed was, are we living in a computer simulation? Now, think about it in The Matrix. And one of the reasons that show was so popular was because people really connected to what the show was saying, that this reality is not a base reality. This reality that we think is real is actually just it's energy in motion. It's atoms bubbling together to make solids. But science has already proven that at the core level, or the fundamental atomic level of any material substance, there's space. And that's pretty incredible. Because think about it this way. What Bostrom is saying is that, and a lot of people before him now, if you go back to the ancient texts of India or Egypt, well, actually Egypt got most of their stuff from India, but if you go back to the old ancient texts, any and all of those gurus, those maharajis, those rishis, those enlightened people, those, even in the days of Ireland, they were called Shanachies. They were the Irish storytellers that used to go across the land. And they were these very wisdom-filled teachers. They would all talk about that this world that we live in is, in essence, holographic in nature. It's a holographic, not just the world, the entire universe is made up of atoms, energy and motion. It's not made up of solids. And what's fascinating is that hearing that, millennia ago, and even in the ancient teachings, and even up to, you read something like Paramahansa Yogananda's autobiography. I was reading it the other day, and he was talking about this, that, hey, don't get so caught up in the world of form, because it's all an illusion. Now, that doesn't mean that you don't go out and live your life and you serve and you do things to better your communities and better your life and your family and grow and stretch and all of those things. It's not a prescription to go out and just be a you fill in the blanks. We don't use bad language on the show, so you fill in the blanks with whatever culture you're in. Use that word. Right? Or not. Now, what's fascinating is that Bostrom says that it's either we've had so many cultures on the planet that what's possibly true is that at some point a culture with technological advancements came forward, and as through eons of time, and our culture is a lot older than we say it is. They've already proven that. Through sites like in Egypt, the Giza Plateau, the Egyptian pyramids, Göbekli Tepe in Turkey, and all these ancient sites around the world. And again, these ancient cultures all talk about this simulation hypothesis where we're living in. Now, I don't think it's a computer simulation developed by advanced beings. I think it's a cosmic simulation, which is what Yogananda talked about in his book. And he has, in there, he talks about, fascinating, he has this enlightenment experience where he sees everything as energy, and he can pass through it and put his hands through it, and he can see behind him, in front of him, to the side of him. He can see through walls. Nothing is there except this energy. Pretty incredible, I have to say. Really incredible stuff. So, taking this idea, right, and Marianne Williamson, Greg Braden, they all talk about this holographic universe where things are not as they appear. Things are not as real as we make them out to be. Now, why is this important for us to play with a little bit? Because we take our... So now, if we're living in a simulated reality, and how do we interact with that simulated reality? We act through it through thought and consciousness. Consciousness allows us to experience our thoughts, and our thoughts create our feelings. Our feelings create an experience, and that experience we call reality. So we're not living in a reality. We're living in a thought-created reality, which gives credence, which gives even more energy, or what's the word I'm looking for? Come on, Dermot. Come on, what's the word? Oh, my little mind is running around, and there's nothing there. You ever have that where you just have like a brain pause? Actually, wouldn't it be great if I could put my thinking on pause and forget to take it off? Wouldn't that be nice? Yeah. But what it says basically is that we're living in a thought-created reality where it's not what's happening to us is what's real. It's how we think about it. In the same way that we could say that we're living in the feeling of our thinking, or the experience of our thinking. We're living in the experience of our thinking, not in the experience of the material world. So even our thoughts betray us in terms of giving away that this, in fact, is not a real universe. It may be real. You can bunk your head against the thing and it can hurt, right? But the reason that is because of our mind, because of our thinking. As a man thinketh, so he experiences, type of thing, right? Now, I find that fascinating. Now, to wrap up this segment, I've kind of gone a little scientific on you, but to wrap up this segment, here's a quote from Oscar Wilde. We are all in the gutter, but some of us are looking at the stars. In the same way that when we think that our life is so serious, I often ask my clients, I say, listen, if your life is so serious, what is it you're absolutely sure of? I asked an enlightened man that once. And because the only thing I could come up with was gravity. That I was absolutely sure that gravity was a principle and it worked no matter who you were, what you are, or where you are. And I said, what else in the universe, I said to him, is can I depend on? That is absolutely true. And you know what he said to me? I am. Which I am is in spiritual realm, in the spiritual circles. The I am is the God within you. That there is a spiritual essence, an innate intelligence, an inner wisdom within you. God, Bob, Barbara, Hugh, whatever you want to call it, is within all of us. Now we're going to be talking a little bit more about that today when we get down to you alone can do it, but you can't do it alone. So the next time you're having the experience through your thinking, your feeling, that your life is blah, 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 not going well, not doing this, take a step back and take a breath. You know, that count to 10 and just take a breath. And take a little step back into the fact that, hey, this is not meant to be all so serious. This life is not meant to be all moods and gloom and doom and stress. That there's a lot of things in this life. Let's take it this way. Some of the things that the Irish do well, or do differently, is it's very hard for an Irishman or an Irish woman to say no. I don't know why it is, but Irish people tend to say yes to everything. When you're in Ireland, could you bring us down to the pub? Of course I could, yeah. Could you tell us the way? Be Jesus, yes, I would. Would you lend us a $5? Be God, I would. No, not a problem. I'd be happy to do it for you. Even sometimes when they want to say no, the Irish have been prone to say yes. It's in the genes, in the culture. Don't ask me why. Right? I would encourage you the next time you're going through some stuff to just say yes to what is. Show up to what is. Experience what is. The wonderful philosopher Sid Banks said, if the only thing that people got out of the world was not to be afraid of their experience, that alone would change the world. Another thing the Irish don't take so seriously is funerals. If you notice in Ireland, we have this thing called wakes. It's for the dead, which is kind of funny. We have a wake. And it's not to wake up the dead person. But a wake is a celebration that this person has left this life and gone on to the astral world, or to heaven, or whatever you might call it. And it's a celebration of that person's life, and it's a happy celebration. Because in the ancient cultures of Ireland, in the Druids and in the Celts were started up around 6,000 years ago, and the Druids, which were kind of more European, and whether they were even in Ireland or not is suspect, but definitely Scotland and England. And the Druids were this part of a culture that really accepted the nature of life and death. They accepted the nature of immortality. That yes, we live and die in these mortal bodies, but we don't die in terms of our spiritual bodies. And the Druids were a fascinating culture because they were quite smart. They were quite wisdom filled, and one of the things that they often celebrated was the passing of a person. Now, I have to say that there's a few studies that were done that the Celts, about 6,000 years ago, they found. You know what? I'm not even going to go into that. It's a lot of kind of death and destruction and all that stuff. I'm not even going to go into it. But fair to say is they appreciated the cycle of life and death, knowing that death was not the end. In the same way that sometimes we feel, hey, gosh, my life is kind of over. I've got this and that wrong with me. Not true. Not true. How we show up for life and how we show up for the experience of life will also tell you the quality of your life. Because you can show up for a sore leg, joyful about it, or you can show up for a sore leg and not be too joyful about it. Now, here's a fascinating fact. We're going to go for a break here in a moment. The population of Ireland is around 6.3 million. And one of the things that the Irish do well is they love to travel. And they've found that between 50 and 80 million people have Irish forebears, which means that there's about 80 million people around the world that all came from Ireland out of 6.3 million. So the Irish like to make love too, I think. That's fair to say. I'll tell you another thing that the Irish they do well. They don't mind poking fun at themselves. You know, they don't mind laughing at themselves. And I think in this world where we do take everything so seriously, a little more laughing at ourselves might be highly, highly recommended by the Irish doctor over here. All right, that was a lot of different things thrown in there, I have to say. But I hope you enjoyed the mismatch of a little bit of me arse and cabbages and what the Irish do well. Another thing the Irish do well is they sing, and they like to play good music. So it's coming up to the break here. Let's do a little station ID and play some music. We'll be right back. Stay tuned. We're going to be talking about the art of putting the feet up. How is it the Irish seem to be so relaxed at the best of times? Now, we're taking alcohol out of the equation, and we're just going to talk about some of the habits of the Irish. We're also going to be talking about what's in your control and what's not in your control in this scientifically, spiritually simulated life. All right. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Everyone, you're listening to the Celtic Coach radio show. It's the top of the hour. You're listening to KOWS.FM, F for Frank, M for Matilda. We are here every Friday. Every Friday from 1 to 3. We have our show from 1:30 to 2:30, talking about all things scientific, all things spiritual, and how the two of them dance together like a good rugby match. All right, we're talking today about the Irish do it differently. Now, one of the things that the Irish do well is the art of putting the feet up. Now, I know this well because growing up, I had to. Growing up in Ireland, one of the things that we would always have with my mother for years and years and years, even when I left home, I went to Germany when I was I don't know, 19 or so, and then I from there, I went to America when I was, I want to say 25 or so, 24, 25. And one of the things that I would always do when I went home was tea time with the mother. It was a time just to put the feet up, relax, have a cup of tea, have a scone with butter and jam, or a biscuit or a cookie, and just sit and just put the pause button on life. I get concerned at times because I find that at times I don't have a pause button. And I may be the only one, I don't know. But I don't have a pause button. I don't take time in my life to just go click and pause my life. I spend way too much time running around getting this, doing that, having that, trying to get this and blah, blah, plan for that, and you name it. So inviting you to have a tea time at home. In England and Ireland and Scotland, we have tea time, where we just sit and we just have a cup of tea. And we talk about life. We talk about whatever's on offer, you know? We just sit and chat. And have an old chat with the mother, you know. It's a wonderful, wonderful thing. Now I want to share something in terms of putting the pause on, putting the feet up. The other day I was working on. I was just working on a proposal for a company, and to do some coaching within the company, and it just wasn't going well. I mean, it was like pulling teeth. God bless all the dentists out there. But it was like pulling teeth. I had, how should I say it? Let me think. I'm trying to think of what's the best way to say this. There was nothing up in the attic. The light was on, but there was nobody home. Do you know what I mean? The wall was short a few bricks. Like my elevator was not hitting the top floor at all. It was somewhere stuck between the basement and number 1, and I couldn't get any ideas for this proposal. And I was beating my head off the wall, you know, taking out the judgment hammer. Oh, I'm stupid! I can't do this, can't do that. La 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 la. Right? Judgment hammer out in force, not Thor's hammer, but the judgment hammer, the one where I beat myself up all over the time. And hang on a second, it's tea time. Doesn't have any honey, but it's still pretty good. All right. And it was around 2 o'clock in the day. Now, usually I work till about 5 or 6 or later, depending on what I've got going on that day. And I said to myself, Dermot, you are taking the rest of the day off. And the thought just came to my head, and I thought, I can't do that. I've got this to do. I've got that to do. I've blah, 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 blah. And if you're working in a 9 to 5 and you're saying, Dermot, I can't do that. Well, you can always just put the pause button on for 5 minutes. But I decided to take the rest of the day off because this proposal thing was just... And as well as that, I had also some stuff to do for the radio show. I had a bunch of things to put up on the website and create for the website. And so it was kind of backlogged, and I was stressing about it all. And I said, screw all this. I'm just taking the rest of the day off. I'm going to sit on the couch. I'm going to go outside. Maybe not sit on the couch outside because that'll be really hard to get it outside. But I'm going to go look at the grass grow. And that's all I'm going to do. Or maybe I'll just look at the neighbor's sheep and talk to them. Even though they don't say anything except, "Barr!" And that usually means, give me something to eat, Dermot, as quickly as possible. Do you have anything in the kitchen? Could you go into the kitchen and could you see? Because all the grass out here, we're getting a little bit tired of it. Amazing. All of that in a bah. Amazing what you can learn from sheep. And I went downstairs and I sat on the couch first for 5 minutes and that wasn't helping. So I went outside and looked at the sheep and that wasn't helping. And then I came back in and I sat back on the couch. I made a cup of tea. And I just sat down with a cup of tea. And I just allowed myself to relax. Now, by the way, in case you're wondering, Dermot, how do I relax? It's built into our system. It's built into the science and spirituality of our bodies. It's like the default mechanism on the computer. When you press it, everything goes back to zero. Goes back to the manufactured settings. In the same way that our manufactured settings is peaceful. But for our thinking, we are peaceful. That's why meditation is so powerful. You get into a space where there is thinking, but you're not listening to it. You get into a space where there is thinking, but you're not taking it seriously. You get into a space in meditation where you're sitting there not wanting anything from yourself. Although if you've meditated, you know that sometimes you just want to get up. Right? But for the most part, you're just sitting there allowing that peace that is already within you to blossom forth. Now, that's pretty incredible. But more on that later. So I'm sitting there and I'm relaxing. And about 15 minutes into it, I was feeling very relaxed. I was just drinking my tea. And all of these ideas started coming to me about my website. Not about the proposal, which is interesting, but for my website. And I got so inspired in that moment that I went off and now this was about 3 or 4 hours of work on the website. Actually, probably more like 4. It was a lot of work. And I took my computer to my bedroom along with my cup of tea and my cookie. And I sat there and I just did all the work and I couldn't have been more relaxed. Now, that was a fascinating experience for me, and I'll tell you why. Because I realized that in that moment, when I'm banging my head against the wall, when I'm overthinking something, or thinking a lot, right? We don't have stress in our lives. We have thinking, which causes stress, which gives us the feeling of being stressed. Our mind is going faster than the speed of life. And I realized in that moment that when I could just give myself permission to do nothing, when I could give myself permission to do something else other than what I was doing, whether it's go play the guitar or meditate or go for a walk, whatever it is, that there's something happens in the brain. And in that moment, we kind of hit the pause button on our thinking, and now our wisdom, that innate intelligence that lives within all of us, not just some of us, not just the Bonos of the world, but lives in all of us, can get through. There's a little space. There's a little portal where we can now discover something new. As James Joyce says, a man's errors are his portals of discovery. And I would say a man's pauses are his portals of discovery. A man's permission to do something else or to do nothing are the portals of discovery. No offense, Mr. Joyce. No offense. I know I couldn't make that quote any better, but I'm just putting another spin on it. So when we allow ourselves to take a moment to walk away from what we're doing, and it's not always easy. I get it. People have family, they have kids, they have jobs, they have community. I get all that. But even in those moments when you're doing that, you can still take a moment for yourself. You can still hit the pause button of your life and take a moment for yourself. It's so, I can't tell you, dear listeners, how important it is to do that. And I realized from that experience that any time I'm banging my head against the wall, overthinking something. Now, by the way, if you're stressed, you're overthinking. Here's a fascinating thing. It fascinates me. We are set up as a spiritual being. We're set up to experience life in the moment. Not the future moment of life, not the past moment of life. We are set up, our beings, our bodies, right? The human experience is set up to experience what's going on in the moment and nothing else. Just look at babies. They never need therapy. They don't need plans. They don't need vision boards. They don't need affirmations. They're just in the moment. And sometimes they're happy, and sometimes they're sad. And they couldn't care less which. To them, it's all the same. They're just in the moment. That was kind of freaky, you know. But I was trying to I was trying to make the point that, you know, kids are sad in a moment and they're happy in another moment. They don't compare the two. They don't hold on to it. But when our thinking, when our reason mind, when our cognitive brain gets in on the deal, then we overthink stuff. And it's built into us to be peaceful, to be in the moment. But our thinking gets us in the way. How do you stop our thinking, you might be asking? You can't stop yourself from thinking. But you can realize in a moment that's all that's going on is your thinking. And it's very fascinating when I work with clients and I share this with them, that they start to see, not intellectually, but see with their heart, not with their head, that that's true. That there's nothing going on outside of our world except for our own thinking of it. We experience our world through our thoughts, and our thoughts create a feeling, and we experience the world through thought and feeling, along with our senses and so on. But it starts there. So give yourself a break. It's built into our system that when you walk away and you just sit down and do nothing, you don't have to do anything to get peaceful. Although meditation is wonderful, don't get me wrong. I happen to recommend it, but you don't have to. If you just sit there, the factory default in your spiritual computer, your heart, your being, your sympathetic and parasympathetic system will calm down. It's built into us, which is beautiful. It's beautiful to know that. You ever notice that in the moments when you're just doing something and you're in the moment, you're relaxed? The moment, I have found, is the best place to be relaxed. It's probably the only place you can be relaxed. We were not set up to be constantly thinking about the future or lamenting the past. We were set up to be in the moment. And the best way to be in the moment is to recognize that you're stuck in your thinking, to see that you're not in the moment. Once you realize, oh my God, I'm thinking here about 20 things down the road, that insight, that awareness brings you back into the moment. It's really incredible. All right, let's take Seamus is here, so we're going to bring Seamus on, and so stay tuned. We're going to be back with Seamus. I'm laughing here. He's just getting in the door. We're going to bring back Seamus in with top 11 things you absolutely do not need to know about stress. So stay tuned, everyone. We'll be right back. The Celtic Coach radio show, the greatest show on the planet. Did I say that right, Dermot? It wasn't too bad, Seamus. It was okay. All right, well, it's written here in front of me, so, you know, I was trying to mush up the show a little bit, you know, tell people what a great show it is, even though I didn't listen to it today, but however. All right. Welcome, everyone. You're listening to the Celtic Coach radio show. We're here every Friday from 1 to 3, and 1:30 to 2:30 is when we'll be doing the content of the show, and then, of course, we'll be doing music 30 minutes at the start, 30 minutes at the end. All right, we're talking today top 11 things you absolutely do not need to know about stress. Here we go. Number 11, stress reduction kit. They're selling them now in China. It's a bottle of chloroform. Number 10, trying to stop my stressful thinking is like standing under a waterfall hoping to stop the flow. Which is, no, I've tried that a few times. Number 9, if you want to think less, then do more. And if you want to do more, think less. Think about that one. Think about it. All right, number 8, thinking is not my problem. Stopping my thinking, now that's the problem. You see, most people think they're stressed, but actually, most stress is a result of their thinking. I know, that was very philosophical of me, wasn't it? The wife wrote that one. Number 7, for my stress, someone suggested thinking outside of the box. Oh yeah, there was a friend of mine. He says to me, Seamus, he says, you're very stressed. Why did you, about your problems, why did you think outside the box? Well, I decided I would think outside the box. But UPS came and they picked up the box. And now I just think outside. Number 6, stress is worse than we thought, ladies and gentlemen. Oh yeah, worse than we thought. Now the Buddha has just signed up for a stress management class. That's how bad things are getting. Oh, Jesus, no. The Dalai Lama will be next. It's like the two Dalai Lamas. They were sitting together, you know, they were meditating. And one of them turned to the other lad, high up in the mountain there in the Himalayas. And he says, are you not thinking what I'm not thinking? Number 5, stress is when you wake up screaming and you realise you haven't even fallen asleep yet. I've had that happen a few times. The wife was not very happy about it. Number 4. All right, here we go. This is something now for the lassies out there, for the ladies out there. Now, the ladies have told me this. This is not something I'm making up, but the ladies have shared this with me. For the ladies, stress reduction is switching from the skinny jeans to the yoga pants. Number 3, for men, stress reduction is simply changing the channel on the TV. Number 2, my doctor told me to avoid any unnecessary stress. So I didn't open the bill that he sent to me. The number 1 thing you absolutely do not need to know about stress is this. This year, oh yes, we decided this year. Well, actually, it was last year, because it hasn't come yet. Last year, we decided to have a stress-free Thanksgiving. Yeah. So we stuffed the turkey with Prozac. And I have to say, it was the calmest Thanksgiving that we ever had. And I have to say, the turkey, he was pretty happy about it too. I'm Seamus O'Flaherty, and you've been listening to the Celtic Coach radio show. Top 11 things you absolutely do not need to know about stress. Stay tuned. There's more coming up from the cosmic wizard, the guy with all the answers. And so stay tuned. Anyway, cheers, good luck. That, my dear friends, girls and boys, is no blarney. Welcome back, everyone. That wasn't too bad, Seamus. That wasn't too bad at all, Seamus. I mean, I've heard worse. Oh yes, I've heard worse from you too. And I don't mean the band, I mean you. Well, thanks, Seamus. I appreciate your honesty. All right, we're welcome back, everyone. We're talking today about the Irish. They do it differently. What else do the Irish do that's different? Okay. My dear mother, she's no longer on the planet. She's probably reincarnated. Don't ask me where. Probably in Scotland, in the Highlands. She's probably a Highlander in the Scottish Highlands. She used to say to me, because I'd come home, we'd have a chat about life and different things. And she used to say to me, because I was always telling her like what I was doing and how I was struggling and all the things I had on my plate and all the ideas I had. And all the projects that I was doing by myself and blah, blah, blah. And I'd be kind of complaining to her, about these. And that there was a lot on my plate. And she used to say to me all the time, Dermot, and she said regularly, you alone can do it, but you cannot do it alone. Now, that to me, years later, that speaks volumes. Because if it's true that we live in a cosmic simulation, if it's true that there is something outside of ourselves and within us that is creating this whole experience, if it's true that we are in fact spiritual beings having a human experience, not the other way around, then it stands to fact that there is part of life that's up to us and there's part of life that's not. In other words, there's part of life, of our lives, that we can control, and there's part that we cannot. Now, the key in all of that is to know what's in your control and what's out of your control. Now, I often ask my clients this, and they don't like the question, I have to admit. I often ask them, hey, let's get a piece of paper, everyone, draw a line down the middle, and on the left side of the piece of paper, polypicta paper, put what's in my control, or just in my control, and then on the right side of the line, put not in my control. And make a list of what things you think are in your control and not out of your control. Now, you can pause the recording if you're listening on one of the media players out there on the website. You can just pause and take a moment and do that. Now, I'm going to talk to that for a moment. Here's what's in your control, as best as I can tell, as I can see it. What you say, what you do, what you believe. In other words, there are certain. Let me see. How do I want to say this? That's a little more clearer. The only thing that you're in control of, is what you can touch, taste, see, smell, move, drink, experience within you. Clients come to me and they say, I want to get my daughter to quit smoking. I want the boss to be nicer to me. I want the neighbor to stop blah, 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 blah. I want my wife to blah, 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 blah. And what's in your control, in other words, people, places, and things outside of you, in essence, are not in your control. You cannot make some person do something. You cannot make another person be something, have something, do something, believe something. Now, you can influence that to your own words, of course, but in essence, you can't control that. Can't control the weather. You can't control life circumstances. You can't control what happens to you. You can control what you do with what happens to you. You can't control your bodies in terms of some days, part of life is you're going to have pain in your body. That is just part of the deal. Don't ask me why or how or what's that all about. But you're going to have pain in your body. We all do, myself included. I wish I didn't, but I do. Now, I can't control that shows up in my life. But I can control how I feel about it. I can control how I think about it, how I see it, how I reference it, how I talk about it. The experience that I want to have to it, I can have some influence over. But any time that you want somebody else outside of you or a situation outside of you to be different, now you can work towards, creating different circumstances. I'm not saying you can't. You can have projects and intentions and desires and all that stuff. What I would usually ask a client when they say, I want this person to be like this or that person to be, or I don't want to experience this. And I'll say, well, how much control do you have over that? I don't want to experience, this pain in my body. I don't want to experience this anger or this frustration. It's fascinating. If we just... here's something that would change your life in an instant. If you made what you experience in life, if you made that okay, whether it's pain, whether it's pleasure, whether it's anger, whether it's frustration, whatever, if you just made that okay, that alone would change your life. You see, the spiritual aspect of life, the things that happen to us, that's not in our control. The practical side of life, of what we can do about it, from the inside, there are parts of that are in our control. No question about it. You alone can do it, but you can't do it alone. There is a spirit, a God particle, a God flame, whatever you want to call it, within you that can absolutely do for you what you can't do for yourself. Now, I'm not talking on a religious level here. I'm talking about spiritual. As William Butler Yeats says, there's too many things are occurring for even a big heart to hold. There are so many things in this world, in our lives, that are occurring that they're even too big for us to hold. So give it away. You've heard the old adage of when you share your pain, you half it. When you share your joy, you double it. And all you got to do is sit quiet for a moment. You want to get a solution to any problem, they call it the still small voice, or the wisdom within you, intuition, whatever you want to call it, innate intelligence, right? Within you, that when you just allow yourself to get quiet, there's a space that opens up. It's the space of pondering. It's the space of silence. It's the space of relaxation. It's the space of giving up. It's the space of permission to do nothing. It's the space of letting go. It's the space of opening up. It's the space of, I don't know what to do. When you sit, you don't even have to allow that space to open. You just sit in that space that's already inside of you. New things will occur to you. New solutions to problems, new insights, new perspectives, new solutions for different things will come to you. But you got to be willing to lean against something other than your own brain. You've got to be willing to lean up, open to something else besides your own thinking. In essence, you've got to be willing to just relax. The best way to think about a problem, the best way to solve a problem, ladies and gentlemen, is to not think about it. You ever had the experience in the shower where you've been thinking about something and then you go to have a shower and all of a sudden, Einstein used to go to bed. When he wanted to think about something, he would go to bed. And he wouldn't think about the problem. He would spend 95% of his time thinking about the question. You see, when we have a problem, we want to think about the solution. But what if you thought more about what is the actual question I need to ask myself about this problem? In coaching, in a lot of the coaching that I do, the question is the answer. The solution is the question. So take some time to put the pause button on your life. Me arse and cabbages, as the Irish say. Don't take it so seriously. Put the feet up an odd time. Irish are great at putting the feet up. Give yourself permission to do nothing. If your children come to you and say, Dad, I got a problem, invite them to go take a walk and to not talk about the problem for at least 5 or 10 minutes. And then after walking with them for a few minutes, say, what's the solution? Allow them to connect to their own innate intelligence. By the way, kids have it. They haven't thought themselves out of it yet. You can learn a lot from them. And take a little time, as James Joyce says, a man's errors, a man's questions, a man's pauses are his portals to discovery, or portals of discovery. And as my dear, dear mother always said, you alone can do it. But you can't do it alone. Allow yourself to connect to something more than you. Doesn't matter whether you believe in God, Jehovah, or whatever the heck you call it. Even if you just get quiet and allow something new to come forward, it will. It's amazing how it works. And take time out with your family. Take time out with yourselves to have a pause button. Even if it's for 10 minutes just to look outside. The greatest of obstacles, the greatest of problem solutions have always come to me in the moment when I'm most relaxed. Very hard to think up a solution to a problem when you're thinking about it. But as soon as you let go of the thinking, the answer comes. It's really beautiful. I'm not sure how it works. So let's summarize our show today. Take time to put the feet up, everyone. And remember that you alone can do it. But you can't do it alone. Ask for help when you need it. Lean on something bigger than yourself, whatever that is for you. And don't take it all so seriously. If it's true, as Nick Bostrom says, that we're living in a computer simulation, then we can relax a little bit about it, you know? Because we get ample opportunities to do it again. Life, yes, but to live a moment again. Say, you know what, I'm going to try that again. I messed up this time, but I'm going to try having that conversation again. I'm going to try doing that again. Cut yourself infinite slack. As Oscar Wilde says, we're all in the gutter. But some of us are looking at the stars. So if you're in the gutter, don't worry about it. Sit there and relax, be okay with it. When you're ready, get up and move on. We all have those moments, everyone. I wish you all a wonderful, wonderful week, and I thank you all for listening all around the planet. It's always my pleasure to bring you the show. Got a great show for you next week. Stay tuned. We're going to be talking about, I've got two things going, but I'm pretty sure it's going to be the funny side of life. The funny side of life. So stay tuned for that. Until then, think big, have fun, stay curious. I'm the Celtic Coach, everyone. If you want to get more information on the show, or you want to get me send me a copy, you want me to send you a copy, you can go to thecelticcoach.com. Just put your email in the little thing there, and I'll send you a copy of the show every week along with information on the following week's show. Until then, cheers, everyone. And that, my dear listeners, that is no blarney.